want to learn how to play authentic Cuban Latin jazz? Well, if you want to play in this style, then you really need to understand how to play Montunos. Well, in today's lesson, I'm going to teach you everything that you need to know about Montunos, including the Montuno Rhythm, 2 right-hand variations, the left-hand Montuno bass line. I'll show you 3 different ways of putting your hands together, and then finally, I'm going to teach you 6 of my favorite Montunos, starting from the beginner level and working our way to the advanced level. So if you're ready to get started, let's dive in. So what is a Montuno? Well, a Montuno is a repeated rhythmic piano figure that's used in Cuban music. It's usually 2 measures long, it's very syncopated, and it has lots of half steps. You'll hear piano players playing this figure oftentimes behind the band, and sometimes you'll hear the piano playing this all by itself during a vamp section to build some energy before the band comes back in. Next, I'm going to teach you the Montuno Rhythm, but before we do this, if you're enjoying the lesson, please hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more videos just like this. So the Montuno Rhythm is super cool. I'm going to clap it for you, and then we're going to break it down slowly. The Montuno Rhythm goes like this. And if you counted it slowly, it would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Now this rhythm is highly syncopated because you're playing a lot of the notes on the up beats. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The other thing that's important is where you place your accents. And you can do this in different ways, but my favorite way of playing it is like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So how do you actually play this at the piano? Well, there are 2 approaches to this, and I call this chord breaking. And here's what I mean. You're going to start with a chord, and it's very common in this style of music to use minor chords. So I recommend that you start with a big C minor chord, and then the next step is to break up this chord. So the first technique is called the outer-inner technique, and it's very simple. You're going to take the 2 outer notes of the chord and play them against the inner notes of the chord, okay? And you're going to switch between both of these as you play the rhythm. So it's going to sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. Now, if you're new at the piano, that might be a little challenging to play, so I recommend that you slow it down and count the rhythm really slowly like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. The second approach is what I call the arpeggiated approach, and this is where you break up the notes of the chord, and it sounds like this. Basically, I'm just taking the first chord C minor, I'm hitting the octave, and then I'm breaking up the notes of the chord. Okay, then I'm doing the outer inner, grabbing the octave, I'm breaking up the notes again, and then going outer inner, and then doing the octave. The rhythm goes like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Now you can mix your outer inner technique and your arpeggiated technique. So you could play something like this. All right, let's play both of these rhythms with the included backing track. Here we go. And here's 2. By the way, this lesson comes with 4 downloadable backing tracks. You can also download the lesson sheet music, and you can change the key of this entire lesson with a click of 1 button with our smart sheet music. So I'll put a link to all of that below. Now, I do want to mention that there are other ways that you could break up your chords, like this, or maybe like this. But the 2 approaches that I taught you are the most common. Now, before I teach you the left-hand bass line, I want to mention as well that you can change your rhythms up, meaning that the Montuno rhythm does not always have to be the exact rhythm that I taught you. And there's lots of ways that you can vary your rhythm, but one of my favorite things to do is when I get to the end of the phrase, I will change the rhythm slightly by playing the octave on beat 3 and then the inner notes on beat 4. All right, I want to briefly mention your left-hand Montuno bass line. Then we're going to talk about the 3 ways to put your hands together. And then finally, I'm going to teach you my 6 favorite Montunos. The Montuno bass line has this rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And if you were to play this on the piano on a C minor chord, you might play it like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, so there are 3 ways that I recommend that you combine your hands if you want to play Montunos. I'm going to briefly go over these, and then I'm going to teach you how to apply these techniques to my 6 favorite Montunos. First is more of a beginner approach, and I call this the hands unison approach, and it sounds like this. This is a very simple approach because you're basically playing the same thing in both hands. So if you're more of a beginner, I recommend that you focus on this technique, which is the hands unison technique. All right, the second technique is more of an intermediate technique, and I call this the hands harmonized approach, and it sounds like this. With this approach, you're taking the same chords, but instead of playing the same notes in both hands, you're going to harmonize your notes. Finally, the third and most advanced approach is what I call the Montuno Bass approach. And with this technique, you're going to play that Montuno bass line in your left hand while you play the Montuno in your right hand. All right, are you ready to learn my 6 favorite Montunos? We're going to start with the first Montuno, which is a beginner Montuno. I'm going to play it for you, and then we'll break it down. Now this is a great beginner Montuno because it's very simple to play. And basically what I'm doing is I'm starting on a C minor chord and I'm adding 1 note to this chord, the B flat. And this makes it a C minor 7 chord, which is a really nice chord to play when you're jamming on a C minor. The next step is to break up your chord. And so I'm breaking up the notes like this. And then it repeats. Now, once you're feeling good about this, you can try breaking your chord up in other ways. For example, you could break your chord up like this. I encourage you to have fun with this and try breaking up the chord in different ways so that you can start to develop your own sound. All right, Montuno number 2 is also more of a beginner Montuno. I'll play it for you at tempo and then we'll break it down. Here we go. For this Montuno, we're taking a simple 3-note position in each hand. So in the right hand, we're going to use these 3 notes for our C minor chord, and in our left hand, we're going to use these 3 notes. And this actually creates a really beautiful chord called a C minor with an add 2, okay? So we're going to take both of these chord positions and we're going to break them up like this. And then it repeats. Same for the left hand. We're going to start on that D and play it like this. And then it repeats. And when you play the hands together, it sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Now, what I love about this technique is that you get some really nice harmonies when you mix the notes up in both hands. And so I would encourage you to try coming up with some of your own harmonies and changing the order of notes. For example, you could play something like this. All right, before I teach you Montuno number 3, if you're enjoying this lesson and you want to do a deep dive on playing Latin piano, check out our Latin jazz learning tracks over at pianowithjonny.com. In these tracks, you'll learn common Latin songs, you'll learn how to improvise in the Latin jazz style, you'll learn how to accompany over the most common chord progressions in songs, you'll learn lots of tunes, and pretty much everything you need to know about the Latin jazz style. So I'll put a link to those learning tracks below. All right, Montuno 3 is more of an intermediate Montuno. I'll play it for you and then we'll break it down. Here we go. With this technique, we're basically taking that C minor chord, but we're going to use the outer-inner technique, meaning I'm going to put the octaves on the outside and go to the inner notes of the chord and then play this using the Montuno rhythm. So in the right hand, we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And this is also different. We're going to add an A flat in there to create a little melody while we're playing our Montuno. And remember I said that with Montunos, we use a lot of half steps. So that melody's going up a half step and then coming back down. Okay, so here it is again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, back to the G. And also we're going to change chords for this. So we're going to go to a G chord here and use the internal notes of a G major. Okay, so here's the full thing. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4. And notice also at the end I changed the rhythm and I put that G octave on beat 3 and then the A flat on beat 4. For the left hand, we're going to harmonize our right hand by playing the notes from the chord. So we're starting on C minor and we're going to play this rhythm 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, and we're going to change to the G chord and finish with the G chord, B, D, and then G, B. Okay, so here's the full rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And here are the hands together slowly. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, Montuno 4 is a lot like Montuno 3, but we're going to change it up just a little bit. Here's how it goes. Here we go. For this Montuno, we're basically playing the same rhythmic figure and the same chords as the previous Montuno, except instead of using the outer-inner technique and harmonies, we're going to use the arpeggiated approach and unison notes to create this Montuno. So for this one in the right hand, we're arpeggiating the chord. You see that? And then we're going to that melody note, A flat, down to G, and then we're arpeggiating the G, and then playing the same thing, G to A flat. And the left hand is basically playing the same thing as the right hand. And here are the hands together slowly. All right, Montuno number 5 is more of an advanced Montuno, and it sounds like this. Here we go. Now this is one of my favorite Montunos because it sounds so happy, and I actually used this Montuno in my arrangement of Despacito, if you want to look that up on YouTube. So for this Montuno, I'm using 4 chords. I'm starting with C minor, then I'm going to A flat major, and then I'm going to E flat major, and then B flat major. Then I'm arpeggiating the notes of my right hand using this pattern. Now in my left hand, I'm gonna play the same chords as my right hand, but I'm gonna use a different inversion of the chords so that it creates a harmony. So for the first chord, I'm gonna start here and I'm gonna play it like this. A flat, E flat, B flat. And the hands come together like this. Finally, Montuno number 6 is also an advanced Montuno. I'll play it for you and then we'll break it down. Now, what I love about this Montuno is that you have that descending melody in your right hand. And if you want to hear this Montuno in a piano arrangement, you can check out my Latin arrangement of Baby One More Time on YouTube. So for this Montuno, we're going to actually mix 3 different techniques. We're going to use that outer-inner technique, we're going to use unison notes, and we're going to arpeggiate our chords. So for this technique, we're going to start on a C minor, and we're going to do this little walk down, C minor over B, C minor over B flat, and then A half diminished 7. We're going to go to an A flat major chord, a C minor chord, an F sharp diminished 7, and finally we're going to land on our G chord. Next, we're going to break up the chord. We're going to go outer inner to the B flat and A, and now we're going to arpeggiate our chord, that's the C minor, to our F sharp diminished and back to G. For the left hand, we're going to be breaking up the chord and arpeggiating it as well to create some nice harmonies with the right hand. So we're going to start on our C minor chord and break up the chord like this. Down to B, B flat, twice on the A. We're going to arpeggiate the A flat chord. Down to C minor, break up the chord, F sharp diminished, and to the G, break up the chord. Finally, here are the hands together slowly. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Hey, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the lesson, please let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out pianowithjonny.com. We have over 1,000 step-by-step lessons for all playing levels where you'll learn your favorite songs, styles, and how to improvise at the piano. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.